Hi everyone, my name is Phaedra Romero and I am posting this little video just to give you a quick story and testimony of my personal experiences from my encounters with Dr. J and some things that happened after my visit with him. So I'm from the Phoenix area and I've been looking into the Bigfoot phenomena for like 2 years. So I am not an expert. I've only been doing this for a short while and I know very little. So I'm not trying to tell you what to believe or convince you that Bigfoot is real. I encourage everybody who is interested in the subject to go out and seek the truth for yourself. That's what I did. When I started, I knew two things. One, that I wanted to learn the truth, and two, that I wanted to be closer to them. I didn't want to be 10 years down the road, going out and getting a wood knock and that being it. If there was a possibility of being closer to the Bigfoot forest people, then that's what I wanted. So I encourage you to reach out to people who have been doing this for a lot longer and learn from them. That's what I have done. So back in December, I was in Seattle and I was given an invitation to go out and do a night sit with Dr. J and Cynthia at their house in Washington, and also to spend the night. I had not a whole lot of knowledge about the Exodus and the Janu at that time and his experiences. I knew of it just slightly, but I did read the book prior to going up there because I wanted to be fully aware and up to date and educated on what he knew and what he was sharing. So by the way, I just encourage you also to read the book if you haven't. It's really a good read. I loaned it to a friend of mine at work right now who's really not even that much into Bigfoot Sasquatch, and she's really enjoying the book just because of the way it's written. It's very well written. So back in December 8th, I made the trek up to Washington, and I first met them at a restaurant. So it was me, Dr. J, and Cynthia, and another lady who had joined us. And I get to the restaurant and I was very nervous because they all knew each other and I'm kind of like this outsider coming in. And I'm kind of socially awkward anyway. So when I got there, I was just talking nonstop. That's what I do when I'm nervous. And in that, I mentioned how I had finished the book and how I was impressed with how well written it was, and that how there were moments in the book that I laughed and there were moments in the book that I cried. And I'm not very sentimental person. I don't get very overly emotional or cry. So I kind of pointed out how it was very impactful for me. And when I mentioned the part of that, they asked, what part I was impacted by, and I shared that with them. And so here we are in the middle of the restaurant at dinner time, and I bring up this part of the book, and Dr. J gets teary-eyed. So his eyes get swollen with tears, and his face gets red. And at that point, he can't eat anymore because he's so overcome with emotion. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, great job, Phaedra. Way to go. But I also remember thinking, like, there is no way that this man, who is a 300-pound, 7-foot man, is going to start crying in a restaurant if his emotions and his feelings aren't real. I knew at that moment, for 100% certainty, that he was telling the truth and that he really loved the forest people. He had nothing to prove to me. I'm just a nobody from Arizona, right? So after we recouped from that and everybody had their little cry, we headed back to his place and hung out for a little bit and then went out and did our night sit. So on the night sit, we had some good activity. There was definitely what I would call Sasquatch Bigfoot activity in terms of a vocalization, some stuff thrown at our feet. There were some lights that I saw up in the tree line, some white lights. I don't know what everything was, but I know after that experience, we stayed out for about 2 hours. Having been out in the woods enough and interacting, I know what sounds and what things are normal and what aren't. And I was 100% convinced that we had some activity. We stayed out for about 2 hours. It was about 28 degrees. I'm from the desert, so that was enough for me. But during that time when we were sitting out, Dr. J gave us an opportunity to ask for any healing to be done. And so the other lady who was there with me, she spoke first and asked for healing on her. And then when it got to me, the really only issue that I have health-wise that I know about at the time was a pain that I have in my foot, in my heel, in my right heel specifically. So I asked for healing on that and gave them permission to come in that evening while I was sleeping and heal me if they wanted to, if they were able to. So that night I went to bed and I was so excited because every time I woke up, I'd be like, are they here? Am I in anticipation. But needless to say, I woke up the next morning and nothing had happened, and my foot was still the same as it was the night before. So I didn't really have any expectations. I wasn't like really expecting to be miraculously healed overnight. But you never know. And one of the things that Dr. J had said that night and then even the next morning, that they can come and work on you and you don't know it. When we were out in the night sit, he had also asked for our home clans to come and do the healing if they were able to, if it didn't get done up there. So the next morning was great. They made me breakfast, send me off back to the airport, and I couldn't ask for two people to be a better host and hostess in terms of welcoming me into their house. I was a stranger. They didn't really know me from a hole in the wall, so I think it really speaks a lot to their characters to welcome people into their home like that so they can have experiences and learn. So I headed back to Phoenix, and I kind of had it on the back of my mind about my experience there, but like I said, I didn't have any expectations. So flash forward from December 8th to January 8th, I'm at home and I did something by accident and I hit my foot. And I braced myself for the pain that I knew was going to come. And so let me just give you a little bit of just a brief understanding of the pain that was in my foot. So it was in my right heel, and I was not able to put my foot up on the coffee table. When you sit back, relax, put your feet up, and watch TV. I couldn't do that because if I set my right foot on the coffee table, I would have excruciating pain shoot from my heel up my leg, and I wanted to cry and scream. So I didn't actually go to the doctors for it because I knew if I went to the doctor, they would want to touch it. And I knew if somebody touched my foot, I would punch them in the face because it hurt so bad. I couldn't even rub my hand along the back of my foot without being in pain. So I knew on January 8th when I touched my foot and that happened and I didn't have any pain, that something had happened. And so it took me a while, and I started touching and putting pressure on my heel and feeling. And then I suddenly came to the realization that I went from one extreme of not being able to touch my foot to I went and tested on my coffee table and put my foot up on the coffee table, and I felt no pain at all. And I just kind of sat there. I'm like, how is this possible? This has been months and months and months of pain. I'm even careful on what shoes I wear and how I put my shoes on because I can't have anything rub up against it. So I immediately sent a text then, after I had convinced myself that it was healed and I was okay to touch it. I sent a text message, a message to Dr. J, and I was like, so interestingly enough, I'm like, my heel has no pain in it at all. And I said, if this is because of the Janu and because of your request and my visit out there, please tell them I said thank you. I was so blessed. I was so overwhelmed. I was so appreciative. And, I kind of, in a way, wanted him to respond and be like, oh, yep, that was them. They did it. You're welcome. But he didn't. I think some people try to say, oh, he convinces people that he healed them. He never once told me, oh, that was them, for sure. His words were, I'm glad you're not in pain anymore. And that was it. So I was like, okay. So I spent that whole day like kind of freaking out, like, whoa, what happened? This is awesome. But I was a little bit, my head was spinning. So it gets even a little bit more spinning. So that night I went to bed and I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I consider him a friend, Steve Bachman, who, by the way, is the most honest man I've ever met. And he had mentioned to me about how, you can, they need to know that you trust them. They need to know that they're welcome, free will, and to give them permission. So that night when I went to bed, that was on my mind. So I am laying in bed, and it's just me and my 3 dogs. And in the middle of the night, I'm woken up, and I know that they're there in the room with me. And this is how I know. So I have been in the woods many times, sleeping in my tent, and I've heard and felt them come around. There was this sound, I don't know, like a crack or bang or something, some type of noise. And then everything in my room went still. Like, it was almost like a vacuum effect. Like, the air was sucked out. There was no sound. There was no air. It was this like vacuum effect in my room. I don't know how else to explain it. And I immediately woke up and I was on high alert. Like, my heart was racing. I was kind of getting nervous. I knew they were there. And I said to myself, stay calm. And I said to them, in my mind, I said, it's okay. I know you're here and I trust you. It's okay. So from being in that state of, oh my God, they're in my room and that heart racing, I was then in a complete state of calmness. And I guess the best way that I can explain this is, I used to meditate quite a bit. I don't really do that so much anymore, but it was like a deep meditative state where you're awake, but you're very relaxed. You're very aware of what's going on around you, but your senses are not so heightened. I guess that's the best way that I can find to describe it. So I'm in that state of like for lack of better words, deep meditative state. And I can feel my body coming up off the bed, like I'm being lifted. And I remember kind of thinking, oh, okay, that's good, not too high, because I didn't want to be like 6 feet off my bed like The Exorcist, right? I was like gonna freak out. So I was like, oh, okay, that's good, just a little bit off my bed. And then I could feel them put me down so gently. I could feel their hands letting me down from my shoulder to my head and putting me back down. And when I say hands, I didn't feel like fingers, but I could feel the pressure on my weight coming down from my head and my shoulders, gently putting me back down on my pillow. And then my right leg was lifted up into the air. And so I instantly thought, I'm like, that's my right foot. I'm like, they're checking on my foot. So I said, in my mind to them, I said, was that you? I'm like, did you heal my foot? And in that moment, as they were holding my foot, there was kind of like a movement of yes and like a tap of affirmation on my leg and my foot, and they gently put it back down. And then boom, instantly I was wide awake and full senses back. So you can just imagine, I'm like laying there in bed, my head is spinning. Was playing over and over what had just happened. And, I was trying to figure out, I'm like, was that a dream? And some people might listen to this, and I know there's going to be people say I was, wishful thinking or that was a dream. But I was wide awake. From the time they came into my room and my senses, from the time they left, and I never went back to bed, right? I couldn't. I was awake. So, of course, so I looked at my phone probably about 5-10 minutes after they left, and it was around, I think it was like 1:32 a.m. in the morning. So, so finally the next morning, when it was a decent hour to start contacting people, I sent a message to Dr. J, and I was like, OMG, you're not going to believe what happened last night. My head is spinning. I don't know what's going on, but they were here. They lifted me, and blah, blah, blah. And, once again, nowhere did he say, like, oh, yeah, that was them. For sure, that was them. He just said, wow, that was really cool confirmation that they gave you. That's really cool that you got to have that experience. So none of this has been anybody telling me what happened to me, who it was. I know what happened to me. I know that there's going to be people who are going to ridicule what I say. And I was hesitant to talk about it because I'm not as thick-skinned as some people. But when I thought about it, I came to the conclusion that I'm speaking the truth. And so at the end of the day, I know two things. The truth will always come out and love will win. So with that, I just want to say God bless you all. I wish you all the best of luck on your journey. Keep an open mind, and I hope that you get to experience these wonderful forest people. So take care. Bye.